Hi, I'm Maylord Antonio, and today I'm going to discuss about the cone of experience, the concepts behind it and its implication to teaching and learning process. If you remember the 8 M's of instruction, one element is media, another is material. These two M's, media and material, are actually the elements of this cone of experience to be discussed in this lesson. The cone of experience is a visual model, a pictorial device that represents bands of experience arranged according to degree of abstraction, not on the degree of difficulty. The further you go from the bottom of the cone, the more abstract the experience becomes. Dale asserts that the pattern of arrangement of the bands of experience is not difficulty but degree of abstraction. The amount of immediate sensory participation that is involved. A still photograph of a tree is not more difficult to understand than a dramatization of Hamlet. It is simply in itself a less concrete teaching material than the dramatization. Dale further explains that the individual bands of the cone of experience stand for experiences that are fluid, extensive, and continually interact. It should not be taken literally in its simplified form. The different kinds of sensory aid often overlap and sometimes blend into one another. Motion pictures can be silent or they can combine sight and sound. Students may merely view a demonstration or they may view it when participating in it. Does the cone of experience mean that all teaching and learning must move systematically from base to pinnacle, from direct purposeful experiences to verbal symbols? Dale categorically says that no, we continually shuffle back and forth among various kinds of experiences. Every day, each one of us acquires new concrete experiences through walking on the street, gardening, dramatics, and endless other means. Such learning by doing, such pleasurable return to concrete is natural throughout our lives and at every age level. On the other hand, both the older child and the young pupil make abstractions every day and may need help in doing this well. In our teaching then, we do not always begin with direct experience at the base of the cone. Rather, we begin with the kind of experience that is most appropriate to the needs and abilities of particular learner in a particular learning situation. Then, of course, we vary this experience with many other types of learning activities. One kind of sensory experience is not necessarily more educationally important than another. Sensory experiences are mixed and interrelated. When students listen to you as you give your lecturette, they do not just have an auditory experience. They also have visual experience in the sense that they are reading your facial expression and bodily gestures. We face some risk when we overemphasize the amount of direct experience to learn new concept. Too much reliance on concrete experience may actually obstruct the process of meaningful learning or generalization. The best will be striking a balance between concrete and abstract, direct participation, and symbolic expression for the learning that will continue throughout life. It is true that the older a person is, the more abstract his concepts are likely to be. This can be attributed to physical maturation, more vivid experiences, and sometimes greater motivation for learning. But an older student does not live purely in this world of abstract ideas. Just a child does not live only in his sensory experience, but an old and young stay shuttle in a world of a concrete and the abstract. What are these bands of experience in Dale's cone of experience? It is best to look back at the cone itself, but let us expound on each of them, starting with the most direct. The direct purposeful experiences. These are first-hand experiences which serve as a foundation of our teaching learning. We build up a reservoir of meaningful information and ideas through seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. In the context of the student to learn how to focus a compound light microscope, I will let him focus one, of course, after I showed him how. Next is contrived experiences. In here, we make use of a representative models or mock-ups of reality for practical reasons, so that we can make the real life accessible to the students' perceptions and understanding. For instance, a mock-up of Apollo, a capsule for the exploration of the moon, enabled the North American Aviation Co. to study the problem of lunar flight. Remember how you were taught to tell time? Your teacher may have used a mock-up, a clock whose hands you could turn to set the time you were instructed to set. Simulations such as playing sari-sari store to teach subtracting centavos from pesos is another example of contrived experience. Conducting election of class and school officers by simulating how local election or national elections are conducted is one of more examples of contrived experiences. Next is dramatized experiences. By dramatization, we can participate in a reconstructed experience, even though the original event is far removed from us in time. We relive the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution by acting out the role of characters in the drama. Next is demonstrations. Demonstrations, it is a visualized explanation of an important fact, ideas, or processes by the use of photographs, drawings, films, displays, or guided motions. It is showing how things are done. A teacher in physical education shows the class how to dance tango. Next is study trips. These are excursions, educational trips, and visits conducted to observe an event that is unavailable within the class. Exhibits. These are displays to be seen by spectators. They may consist of working models arranged meaningfully or photographs with models, charts, and posters. Sometimes exhibits are for eyes only. There are some exhibits, however, that include sensory experiences where spectators are allowed to touch or manipulate models displayed. Next is television and motion pictures. Television and motion pictures can reconstruct the reality of the past so effectively that we are made to feel we are there. The unique value of the messages communicated by film and television lies in their feeling, realism, their emphasis on persons and personality, their organized presentation, and their ability to select, dramatize, highlight, and clarify. Next is still pictures, recordings, and radio. These are visual and auditory devices, which may be used by an individual or a group. Still pictures lack sound and motion of a sound film. The radio broadcast of an actual event may often be likened to a televised broadcast minus its visual dimension. Next to it is visual symbols. Visual symbols, these are no longer realistic reproduction of physical things, for these are highly abstract representations. Examples of these are charts, graphs, maps, and diagrams. Next to it is verbal symbols. Verbal symbols, they are not like the objects or ideas for which they stand. They usually do not contain visual clues to their meaning. Written words fall under this category. It may be a word for a concrete object, a book, an idea, freedom of speech, a scientific principle, the principle of balance, or a formula E is equal to mc squared. We already discussed the different bands of experiences. Now, how does the cone of experience can help us to our teaching and learning processes? First is that we do not use only one medium of communication in isolation. Rather, we use many instructional materials to help the learner conceptualize his or her experience. We avoid teaching directly at the symbolic level of thought without adequate foundation of the concrete. Learners' concepts will lack deep roots in direct experience. Dale cautions us when he said, "These rootless experiences will not have the generative power to produce additional concepts and will not able the learner to deal with the new situations that he faces." Next is when teaching, we don't get stuck in the concrete. Let us strive to bring our students to the symbolic or abstract level to develop their higher order thinking skills. Now, I think I have already given you the concepts, ideas, and the implications of cone of experience. I hope that this tutorial will guide you to your teaching and learning processes. Thank you for listening and for your time.